Wait. Ryan, Vince Russo, boom, bring it.
Well, I was cracking up because, you guys always call me a snowflake, and you say that, I get offended so easily and all this stuff. And Disco is one of the most loyal Vince Russo supporters out there. And, he's always been like, oh, why doesn't someone want to do things in person? Why does someone want to do things in person? And then Vince Russo, who on a weekly basis is just spewing hate out there towards everyone and saying the meanest things about people and trying to get a reaction just to get downloads on his show. And then 60-year-old Jim Cornette comes along, who has a limp, who can barely walk, and comes out there and says, challenges him to a fight, and he takes it seriously. And to me, it's funny because he does this whole show about Mars and taking wrestling too seriously, and how can grown men be taking this thing so seriously? It's fake, bro. It's fake. And then Jim Cornette, who is clearly not going to go shoot him, who is clearly not going to go fight him, who is clearly putting on a gimmick for his podcast audience because his whole thing is a gimmick and that's what his fans want. And he says this thing, and Vince Russo goes and files a real restraining order where he says that he is actually in fear of Jim Cornette, which blew my mind. And when I contacted Disco about it, just all right, you guys can never call me a snowflake again. I would never go and do something like this, for something that's wrestling related and clearly a joke, or not even a joke, but clearly something that's not going to actually happen. And Glenn over here, Disco, was defending Vince Russo the whole time, and so I was blown away. And I was like, I don't even want to hear your defense. We should do this on the show because my mind.
Before Disco, you talk, Shane. Wait, because Shane wanted to talk about this. Shane, what do you have to say on this?
Well, first of all, I want an audio clip of Ryan saying clearly, and I want to somehow put that in every show. Somehow. All right. From this point going
I did not know Shane was there. What up, Shane?
All right. Clearly, you did not know I was on this show right now. But I find it really hard to disagree with anything that Ryan just said. Like who takes out a restraint? What is Jim Cornette going to do? Even if he showed up, who can't beat up Jim Cornette? I like Jim Cornette. Okay. If he did have the racket. If the racket came into play, okay, then we got a problem.
Well, we all know that, obviously, yeah.
I just can't imagine actually taking the time out of your life to go and file a restraining order on Jim Cornette. I don't know what street cred he had, if Vinny Roo had any. If he did, that's a pretty weak streak to live on to begin with. But I don't know how you have any after that.
Disco has a little doozy waiting for you, and he can't wait to unload it. But let me just say this. So I was invited to one of his shows, one of his 5 shows. Which one was it, Disco? So people can hear it.
The one that I'm on, just a new show on Monday. It's on Podcast One.
All right. Say the name.
So we were there.
Disco.
Right. So it was a 2-hour conversation. We talked about everything.
Okay, and just real quick, Vince didn't want to talk about this before we when we went on the air. We said, hey, we can't talk about the Cornette thing. Okay, so go ahead.
But we ended up talking about it, okay? Because if you're going to bring me on the show, then let's not pretend this isn't happening.
Right. Of course. So, you just asked him, and he decided, okay, he just answered. He talked about it, okay?
Right. Well, there would have been no show, So the other thing was I told him, I go, bro, just so you know, and kind of echoing what you both guys said, the whole thing's a gimmick, okay? This is how he riles up his fan base, just like you rile up yours and just like I rile up mine. We know how we rile them up, and we're very contentious characters. So now you have to deal with the blowback. And let me tell you what the blowback is. You look like a humongous pussy for doing that.
Yep.
And then he unloaded this. Go ahead, D.I.
All right. So here, well, I'm just saying, because here's the thing, and I think this is here's what I think is sad about this. Okay, and this is an issue I have.
This isn't related to women being grown out of men's ribs, is it?
This is my issue over the course of time with wrestling media. Okay, it's like what me and Conan are the only 2 people that spoke to Vince about this because nobody else called him to get in front of life.
I can cuss on here, right? I can cuss, right?
Go ahead.
Are you out of your mind, Disco?
No,
who called him up?
First of all,
why in God's name would I reach out to Vince Russo, who has dedicated months of airtime to try to discredit me? Why in God's name would I reach out to him when he filled out the documents that he turned into the court, which I paid money to have a courier go to the court and pick up for me, because I don't need to talk to Vince Russo about this, because it's very cut and dry that he put in documents, he wrote in documents himself that I have, that he signed, that he says he is in fear of physical pain, that he's I forget the exact wording. I don't have it up because I'm annoyed with you right now, but yeah, he's in fear of physical harm. He put it in writing. I read it myself.
Ryan, and let me tell you something. And I told him this. I said, how on God's green earth I can see Cornette, because he also has a problem with Bischoff. I said, I can see you having a problem with Bischoff. I go, I had a big problem with him, like real big. And I had him on the show, and he was a gentleman, and we squashed it, okay? I had a problem with Bruce Pritchard, where Shane was present when it. Remember Shane?
Yeah.
Shane was like, what's going on here? I squashed that.
Loved it.
I go, so how do you have a problem? How do you have a problem with Meltzer and Satin? I go, you've managed to piss off everybody, And at the end of the day, I actually felt like he felt bad. Like I think like maybe he's gone too far or something.
He has completely gone too far. And also, wait, real fast. Wait, I want to finish one more thing, Disco.
I'm going to continue.
Also, the other reason I don't need to reach out to him is because he does a daily show that he puts out where I listen to it. Just because I don't talk about him all the time doesn't mean I don't keep my ears to what he's doing, just in case he's bashing me in some sort of way. So I've listened to the show. I've heard both sides. I watched all the YouTube videos. I don't need to call him because he did 5 fucking YouTube videos about it that showed why he filed the police report, or why he filed the restraining order. So to say, oh, this is my problem with the wrestling media, I reach out to people all the time, dude, all the time. And just because in your time that wasn't a thing, don't group me in the same people who don't do that, because I reach out to people all the time, dude. I pride myself on it. Like I didn't.
How often do you reach out to people?
Time out, Ryan. Time
all
out.
the time.
Clearly, he reaches out to people all the time.
I never said that. You didn't. I specifically am categorically talking about this specific case. That's it. And that's all I wanted to discuss.
Start this off by saying this is my problem with the wrestling media.
No.
So explain to me
that the wrestling media didn't contact Vince Russo.
I would like to know how the wrestling media not contacting Vince Russo is somehow proof that Vince Russo is not a pussy for filing this restraining.
For one, okay? Me and Conan spoke to it. Basically, you get the reason of why he actually went to file the restraining order, and this is why, okay? And this is from a conversation that me and Conan had with him, right?
Now, this multiple-hour conversation that you guys have with Vince Russo, this will be up on Podcast 1 for everyone to hear?
No.
I hope the title of the episode is "Why I'm Not a Pussy."
No. Vince does not want to air this because he wants it. Let me say this, and then when I'm complete, you can ask me questions. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The reason he filed, and this is Conan will verify this because he was on the call with us. Okay.
There were things I didn't know, like I didn't know he threatened his wife. I didn't know he called her a slut.
There's some things that people that do not know. Okay, but this goes back. Okay, goes back in time to the back in 2010 when Cornette wrote the email to Terry Taylor, where basically was saying if I could kill Vince Russo, I would. An email that the TNA officials, okay, went to what they wanted. This is back in 2010.
Let me correct Disco like I had to correct Vince. Terry the Stooge Taylor. Continue.
Okay, so back then, where they were actually going to invite Jim to come to the TNA office or something, and they were going to have the police arrest him for making terroristic threats from that email. And Vince said, "Okay, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to stir this stuff up." Okay, so basically, Cornette threatened him a while back, and TNA was actually going to try to have Jim Cornette arrested back in 2010. Okay, so fast forward. All right, the Cornette's been on this rampage for all these years and stuff. They've been threatened to basically if he could.
But to be fair, though, isn't Russo on a little bit of a rampage too?
I can't wait till Jim hears that.
I can't. All right, let me finish. Okay, fast forward to now. Okay, and basically Vince had challenged him to a debate, to debate the specific lies you've categorically said about me. Let's debate him. And Jim Cornette challenged him to a fight where he said he wanted no cops. no whatever, and you can't bring guns and knives. And Jim Cornette even said, I can bring I'd bring a baseball bat and bash.
Yeah, I listened to the whole thing.
Yeah, okay, but okay.
It's Hugesy. Hello.
Yeah, okay, but okay, bro. One of Cornette's friends, and this should be now, probably before this airs. One of Cornette's good friends, okay, that's known Cornette for years, called Vince up and said, Vince, look, I've known this guy for years. It's probably a 95% chance that nothing's going to happen, okay? But on the 5% chance that I don't know what's going on through this guy's mind and he's crazy, I would suggest that you protect yourself, okay? So now Vince tells his wife this, all right? His wife gets scared. His wife's brother, in fear for his sister, actually gets a gun to bring over to Vince's house based on this conversation, okay? Vince had no choice but to just do what he had to do to go get a protective order. And when the judge read the transcript of what Jim had said, and he sees the words kill, kill, kill over this course of this period of time, kill, 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 the judge had no problem giving the protective order. Basically, the protective order is like your standard things you check the boxes on.
The protective order doesn't cover his wife.
No, it does not. You're absolutely right.
He said he wanted to leave a paper trail because he was more afraid that a fan might. Because I didn't know this. He says Jim lives 2 hours from him. Did you know that?
So it's like he's worried.
No.
Bro, he's worried about. He's worried about like his fan base, like these things people say we know where you live and stuff and all that, bro. Just like that is
So,
why. Here's what I'm saying.
That's supposed to explain to me that he's not being a pussy right now because his wife made him do it.
What, bro? You can't think about this. Okay, let me ask you a question. If your girlfriend's brother came over and brought you a gun because you're worried because somebody said that there's a chance that somebody might commit physical harm to you, what would you do?
Well, I would let them know that the guy was cutting a wrestling promo and they were taking things a little too seriously because that's
bro.
dumb.
That has been his contention for years and why he's never done anything like this until he got the phone call from the person that said, Vince, I would protect myself if I were you. I've known this guy for years.
I mean, you really think? Wait,
You can spin it any way you want. You can spin it, and if your contention is
your grown man, adult person knowledge, you really think that there was a chance that Jim Cornette was going to drive over to Vince Russo's house 20 years later after their rivalry had started just because he was angry about some podcast thing that was said or something that was said that he said on the WWF, and he was going to go kill Vince Russo or his wife?
Listen, and there's another thing too. And another reason Vince has done this is because he wants the Cornette fans to finally say, Cornette, you win. I had to file a protection order against you. I'm scared of you. You win. I raise your hand. Just leave me alone.